CEO mocks black waiter's intelligence, but when challenged, faces a shocking truth revealed. As the golden sun dipped low behind the gleaming skyscrapers, Opulent's rooftop restaurant buzzed like a hive. The air crackled with whispers of wealth, laughter cascading like expensive champagne from the tables where the elite gathered. At the center of it all, CEO Nathan Caldwell, draped in a tailored suit that screamed power, sat regally with his entourage. His laughter echoed. It was loud. It was cruel. Miles, a recent college graduate and a waiter at the restaurant, approached their table. His heart raced. He wore a crisp white shirt, its brilliance contrasting the deep mahogany of the tables. He set down a plate, his hands trembling ever so slightly. It happened in a flash. Nathan turned his gaze to Miles, his icy blue eyes narrowing. "What's this? Did you even graduate from a real college?" He sneered, a smirk dancing on his lips. Gasps rose from the onlookers. Miles felt heat creeping up his neck, a rush of humiliation swelling in his chest. Who was this man to belittle him? He held his breath. They all watched, jewels glinting, phones poised to capture the moment. "I did graduate, actually," Miles replied, his voice steadier than he felt. "But I guess you wouldn't know about struggle." The words hung in the air, heavy with tension. Nathan's gaze hardened, a spark of interest flickering in his eyes. "Struggle? What do you know about struggle?" he barked. Moments stretched. The room went silent. Even the clinking glasses paused in disbelief. Miles felt the weight of the moment. This was not just a confrontation. It felt like a legacy unfurling. He drew a breath, the lump in his throat rising ever more. "My mother was a civil rights activist. She fought for equality when you were probably still in diapers. You don't know what strength looks like." Gasps rippled through the crowd once more. A tide of unease washed over Nathan's face as fragile silence took hold. The murmurs were electric with curiosity. "Your mother?" he sputtered, disbelief clawing at his ego. "What's her name?" "Evelyn Pace," Miles said, each word like a drum, echoing not just his name, but his history. The tables around them stirred with newfound energy. Nathan's facade cracked, memories resurfacing from long-buried corners of his mind. Miles saw the recognition flash in his eyes, a swirl of fear and anger. He felt triumph wash over him, but fear too. The kind pressed down so deep it felt like bubbling lava. "You're the son?" Nathan whispered, his voice a mere wisp in the charged air. The laughter of the wealthy felt distant now, almost a cruel joke. "Yes," Miles replied, defiance ringing in his tone. "And I'm not here to play your games." Tension thickened like smoke. Who would emerge victorious in this clash of intellects? Would Nathan's empire of arrogance collapse under the weight of a single truth? Or would Miles' revelation lead to a reckoning neither had anticipated? All eyes remained glued, breaths held, as the two men stood locked in a battle of wills. The legacy of one entwined with the fight of another. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without any notice. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming up. And while you're here, hit that powerful like button. It helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, from which city are you watching? I love getting to know every incredible person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. The tension hung heavy in the air, suffocating. Miles stood firm, his heart pounding like a drum. He had laid down his truth, and now it felt like the whole world held its breath. Nathan's icy facade flickered, the rich laughter around them fading into muted whispers. But just as the atmosphere thickened, a sudden clatter erupted from the bar. Glasses shattered, splintering the charged silence. All heads turned, startled. A man, dishevelled and wild-eyed, burst through the elegant crowd. The polished veneer of the restaurant cracked under his presence. "Help me, please!" he shouted, his voice frantic. Panic radiated off him. "They're coming for me!" Gasps filled the room. Miles felt his chest tighten, a cold dread creeping in. Who was this man? What did he mean? Nathan's gaze darted to the newcomer, eyebrows furrowing. "Get security," he barked, irritation lacing his words. But the man pressed on, stepping closer. "I can't go back! You don't understand!" He jabbed a finger toward Nathan. "You know her! This is all your fault." The accusation hung thick in the air. Everyone gasped again. Miles felt a cold chill run down his spine. What was happening? Nathan recoiled, his bravado faltering. "What are you talking about?" His voice trembled slightly, an imperceptible crack in his armor. "I don't even know you." The man leaned in closer, desperation etched in every line of his face. "You do! You ruined her! I'm her son!" His gaze locked onto Nathan's, and the silence turned electric. Miles' heart raced. Could it be another secret? More lies? The crowd was a cacophony of shocked whispers and frantic murmurs. Nathan's facade crumbled further. You can't be!" he stammered, fingers tightening on the table, as if seeking some grounding. "That's impossible." The man's eyes gleamed with a mix of rage and sorrow. "You thought you could bury the truth? That she wouldn't fight back? She did! And now I'm here to make you pay!" A pulse raced through the room, panic mingling with confusion. Miles felt himself drawn into this whirlwind. He'd wanted to stand his ground, but now there were layers upon layers unfolding with each breath. Nathan, ever the powerful figure, lost his steadiness. His bravado cracked like glass under pressure. "You don't know what you're saying. You have no idea what you're uncovering." Suddenly, an explosion rocked the restaurant. Glass from the windows shattered outward, sending shards flying. Screams erupted, and chaos ensued. Guests ducked. Chairs toppled. The fire alarm blared, urgency screaming through the air. Miles stumbled back, heart racing. Is this how it all ends? The truth, buried under misguided power, rising to the surface amidst the rubble. In the chaos, Nathan's fear turned palpable. He turned to Miles, eyes wide, a frantic plea forming on his lips. "This isn't what it seems. You don't understand." But before Miles could respond, another shout pierced through the smoke. "They're here! They've come for both of you!" A shadow fell over Nathan and Miles. and the fractured world around them blurred into uncertainty. What had started as a confrontation had morphed into something sinister, something beyond their control. And as the chaos exploded around them, it became clear nothing would ever be the same again. The chaos around them intensified. Nathan and Miles stood locked in disbelief amid the shattered glass and panicked screams. The wild-eyed man's desperate gaze pierced through the unfolding mayhem. Fear dripped from his brow. With each passing second, everything felt like it was slipping, like grains of sand through fingers. "Help me!" he cried again, but this time his eyes shifted, darting around as if shadows were creeping from the corners. "They're coming for both of you!" Miles felt his stomach twist. A knot of dread tightened in his chest. What more could possibly come from this nightmare? The threat hung heavy in the air, each word weaving into the fabric of a chaotic tapestry, drawing him into deeper shadows. Nathan's bravado crumbled further. "Security! Where's security?" His voice was a hoarse whisper, tinged with panic. The once confident CEO looked diminished, like a king stripped of his crown. Then, with a sudden crash, the heavy wooden door at the entrance burst open again. This time, a figure rushed in, a woman, breathless and wild-eyed. She wore a long coat that billowed behind her, frantically waving her arms. "Don't let them take him! Please!" The atmosphere sizzled with tension. Miles' heart leaped at the sight of her, his mother. The unmistakable silhouette stirred something deep within him. Evelyn Pace, a ghost from his memories, suddenly made flesh before him. "Mum!" he gasped, shock coursing through him. In a blink, the wild-eyed man's features shifted from fear to recognition. "Mum! It's you!" His voice cracked as the realization washed over him. "You're here! I thought I lost you!" Tears streamed down Evelyn's face as she rushed toward him, arms outstretched. "They were coming for you. I had to find you." But just as she reached him, she faltered, her eyes snapping towards Nathan, her face draining of colour. "You!" Nathan stepped back, every shred of his bravado evaporating as if the air around him had been sucked out. "What are you doing here?" His voice was tremulous, fear lurking behind every syllable. "You should have left us alone." The whispers in the restaurant exploded. Guests exchanged shocked looks, murmuring between themselves. "What's happening?" someone asked, disbelief colouring their tone. "You were never supposed to be back!" Nathan shot back, his voice rising. "You were supposed to stay away and let everything fade into memory." "Memory?" Evelyn's voice was raw, trembling with anger. "You thought you could erase the truth. You thought I wouldn't fight for my son." With a flourish, she pointed back to the wild-eyed man beside her. "You can't take this away. He deserves the truth." A shiver ran down Miles' spine, and he felt the fragments of his reality splintering. The man beside Evelyn, his brother. This sudden revelation slammed into him with a weight he could hardly comprehend. "No!" Nathan's voice snapped back, desperation intertwining with fury. "This isn't what you think. I made sacrifices that you'll never understand." The roar of voices crescendoed as the crowd consumed the exchange, the gasps mingling with an electric buzz of realization. He was no longer just a businessman in a fancy suit. He was a man caged by his own lies. Suddenly, outside the restaurant, sirens wailed. Blue and red lights flickered, illuminating the chaos within. Evelyn's face hardened. It's them! They've come to take him! She turned, urgency blazing in her eyes. We have to go! Now! Before Miles could process what was happening, Nathan lunged toward him, an almost primal urgency in his step. But Miles stepped back, heart racing. Why should I trust you? As fists flew in the maelstrom, an unsettling silence abruptly fell over the restaurant. Nathan's face twisted in desperation, fear coursing through him. You don't understand! Then, the wild-eyed man shouted something that silenced every murmur in the room. You took everything from us! You're not just my father! You're the villain in our story! Everything stopped, the world spun, and Miles felt the weight of an entire life unraveling. What did he really know? What secrets were buried in the corners of their shared past? The truth loomed closer, a dark shadow that threatened to swallow them all whole. Miles' world hung in the balance, the revelation spiraling toward a destiny he never saw coming. What were they truly fighting for? And who truly held the power? Just as chaos erupted once more, he stared into Nathan's eyes, desperation sparking within him. Would this be the end or just the beginning? The tide had turned, leaving everything on the precipice of revelation. The tension thickened, each heartbeat echoing the chaos around them. Miles stood still, absorbing the weight of truths unraveling. Just as Nathan opened his mouth to protest, the wild-eyed man stepped forward, face pale but fierce. You don't get to run from this! You destroyed our lives! The crowd murmured, voices mixing in a wave of curiosity and shock. Was this man truly Nathan's son? What did it mean for Miles? Emotions collided within him. Anger, confusion, and a flickering, desperate hope. Wait! He finally called. Are you really? Before he could finish, another loud crash echoed from the front of the restaurant. It was almost like a movie scene. The door blasted open, and uniformed officers flooded in. Blue lights danced through shattered glass, illuminating startled faces. Everyone, stay calm, one officer shouted, voice stern yet strained. But chaos doesn't listen. Everyone moved, scrambling for exits, panic seeping into the air, thicker than smoke. Miles glanced at his mother. Her expression was a swirl of determination and fear. We can't let them take him, she shouted, her voice firing through the din. Miles felt the world closing in. Nathan's eyes darted with panic, desperation spilling from him. You have to trust me, he cried, reaching out. But Miles stepped back, every instinct screaming at him to retreat. Trust? After all this? Just then, something unexpected happened. A loud explosion rocked the restaurant, sending a shockwave through the floor. It felt like the ground itself jolted. Windows shattered, raining glass like sparkling confetti, but made of danger. People screamed, the noise impassioned by fear drowning everything out. Get down! A voice shouted, slamming against Miles as people rushed by. Miles hit the floor. Heart racing, he turned to look back at the chaos. But then, amidst the mayhem, he saw something flash. A small device in the wild-eyed man's hand. A dull beep echoed, growing louder. The realization hit Miles like a freight train. No! No, no, no! Miles shouted. It's a bomb! His voice broke, fear tearing through him. Panic flooded the room as the officer yelled, "Evacuate!" Now, but with the seconds ticking down, the fear anchored Miles in place. He couldn't move. The wild-eyed man's face twisted, desperate and full of anguish. "It has to end! It has to!" he cried, as if that made any sense. "You have no idea what he's done!" In that chaotic moment, Nathan's anger flared again. "This is madness! You're going to kill all of us!" His voice cracked, layers of bravado stripped away, revealing something raw and human beneath. But the wild-eyed man, shaking and filled with a kind of wild clarity, didn't respond. Instead, he pointed to Nathan, eyes blazing. "You think running from the past would save you? Look where it's led." Miles felt the air crackle as the realization spread through the room. Everyone frozen, caught between the explosion and the truth surfacing. Nathan flinched, the accusation hitting like a slap, the truth of consequence looming large. And when the countdown reached 10, the world around them narrowed to that single heartbeat. The chaos, the secrets, the lies blended into one tragic moment. Miles locked eyes with Nathan, searching for understanding, for something. The seconds ticked down, 9, 8. Then suddenly a figure burst through the chaos. Someone they all recognized. It was Evelyn. Her face a portrait of fear, but determination marked each step she took. "No!" she cried, her voice slicing through the tension. "Mum, get back!" Miles shouted, but she didn't retreat. Instead, she stepped forward, arms raised. "Please, let me explain. I have to make him see." The power of her words hung in the air, but time was out. With a deafening boom, the room lit up and a wave of heat washed over them. In that blinding moment, everything shattered. Relationships, truths, pasts, all caught in a storm beyond comprehension, leaving nothing but uncertain futures. Miles' mind spun, trying to grasp the implications of what just unfolded. He wondered, staring into the void, would anyone emerge from this reality? Or had everything they knew just been irrevocably lost in the chaos? The explosion rocked the restaurant, a deafening roar that swallowed the air whole. People screamed, scattering like leaves in a storm. Miles felt the heat wash over him as he hit the floor, his heart pounding against his chest. All around him, chaos spiraled. The flames danced closer, igniting panic among the guests. Evelyn's voice cut through the chaos. "Everyone, get out!" She turned to Miles, desperation etched in her eyes. "We need to go, now." But Miles was rooted in place, his mind racing. The wild-eyed man watched with a mixture of rage and sadness, his face a mask of conflicting emotions. "You don't understand. It's my turn now." "What are you talking about?" Miles shouted, rising to his feet. But his voice was lost in the commotion. Nathan, looking pale, scanned the room, his bravado shattered. Suddenly, the wild-eyed man lunged toward Nathan, and in a swift motion, he pulled out a gun from his coat. The crowd gasped, a wave of fear washing over everyone. You don't get to run anymore! His voice shook, reflecting the madness swirling around. Wait! Put that down! Nathan raised his hands, backing away toward the bar. This isn't what you think! Enough lies! The man shouted, voice trembling, finger hovering over the trigger. Miles felt the air thicken with fear, each breath heavy and laboured. He glimpsed Evelyn's expression morphing into terror. But she took a step forward, eyes locked on her son. Stop! She cried out. We can't do this! This won't change anything! Mum, you don't understand, he replied, his voice breaking. He took everything from us! Just then, the restaurant rocked once more. The windows rattled and the lights flickered ominously. Sirens wailed outside, distant but closing in like the beasts of a nightmare. Miles felt a surge of something deep within him. What if we just talk? He yelled, desperation tightening in his throat. What if there's another way? A beat of silence fell over the crowd, as all eyes shifted between Nathan and the wild-eyed man. Then, in a flicker of movement, Evelyn made a bold choice. She stepped closer to her son, hands raised, pleading. Listen to me. We can work this out. Together, we can uncover the truth. Her words seemed to have an impact, softening his anger. But just as that fragile moment blossomed, another deafening crash echoed from the back of the restaurant. A figure burst through the door, heavy boots pounding on the floor. It was a woman, fierce and determined. Her hair was wild, and her voice cut through the din like a knife. I won't let you do this. Miles squinted, recognition dawning. Serena? His heart raced. She was a childhood friend, someone he hadn't seen in years. But why was she here? Get away from him, she shouted, pointing to the wild-eyed man. He's only going to hurt you. At that moment, everything changed. The wild-eyed man, his face twisting with shock, glanced between Serena and Nathan. You're alive? In an instant, the truth hit Miles like a wave. This wasn't just a family feud. This was something deeper. What is going on? He stammered, heart racing. The room fell into a tense silence, and Miles's head spun. The secrets they'd all held so tightly began to unravel one by one. As the pieces clicked, he could hardly breathe. Family, he whispered, realizing how wrong he'd been about everything. Nathan wasn't just a businessman. He was a man haunted by choices. The wild-eyed man wasn't alone. He was driven by a past woven in lies. But before anyone could grasp the significance, a blaring siren filled the air, the sound of boots marching directly to their location. Every heart raced as the looming shadow of the truth darkened the room. What else would be revealed? Who else would show up in this storm of chaos and revelations? The truth felt just out of reach, dangling like a flickering light. And with that, Miles faced the growing uncertainty. What paths would unfold next? As the final curtain descended on this tangled web of secrets, the room felt like it was spinning. Miles couldn't grasp what was happening. His heart raced, pounding like rain against a roof in a storm. The wild-eyed man stood frozen, gun trembling in his hand. Evelyn's words echoed in his ears, desperate and pleading. We can work this out. But just as silence seemed to settle, a deep rumble rolled in, shaking the floor beneath their feet. A chill crept into the air, compressing everything momentarily. Then it hit them. A heavier explosion, sending debris flying, reverberating like thunder. Cries of horror pierced the trembling silence as the wild-eyed man stumbled back. The gun clattered to the floor, the tension breaking like glass. Chaos erupted, and in that brief moment, Nathan shouted something unclear, but his eyes spoke volumes. A flicker of panic cutting through his arrogance. Miles scrambled to his feet, stomach twisted. It felt like time slowed to a crawl, his breath shallow, ready to break. The smoke and dust began to settle, thick and choking. People rushed toward the exits, tripping over each other in their frantic escape. Evelyn shouted, "Stay together!" But her voice was nearly drowned out as the restaurant transformed into a maze of fear. And then Miles felt it. An unexpected warmth spreading at his feet. He looked down. Amid the uproar, amidst the broken glass and frantic bodies, he saw it. A small, glowing ember, thrumming with energy. It pulsed, flickering. His instincts screamed to step away. Yet curiosity anchored him in place. "What is that?" the wild-eyed man whispered, eyes wide, as he glanced from the ember to Miles and back again. Shock rippled through them, the tension hanging thick like fog. Suddenly, Evelyn gasped, a hand flying to her mouth. "No, it can't be." Her voice broke, cracks of pain layered thick with memory. "Not after all these years." "What do you mean?" Miles demanded, caught in the storm of uncertainty. But before she could answer, the ember exploded, a blinding flash enveloping everything. A whirlwind swept through the room, sending guests flying against the walls, filling the air with white-hot heat and an overwhelming force. Miles shielded his face, but even then, it was as if the world turned inside out. In that blinding moment, something shifted. When the light dimmed, a vision began to clarify again. But it wasn't the same. Miles looked around in horror. The once luxurious restaurant lay in ruins. But more terrifyingly, everyone stood still. His mother, Nathan, the guests, they were frozen, suspended in time, mouths agape and eyes wide. His heart raced. What just happened? Words tumbled through his mind, and he felt anxious as he stepped forward, calling out, "Mum, can you hear me?" A knot of dread caught in his throat. Then the air distorted, shimmering like heat on asphalt. A voice, soft but resonant, filled the space. "You've awakened it." "What? Who are you?" Miles shouted, his pulse racing, confusion gripping him hard. "Those who seek truth," the voice echoed, layered with a knowing weight, "must confront the past. Choices intertwine. Your stories are not your own." Suddenly, the wild-eyed man collapsed to the ground, the gun forgotten, trembling violently. "No, it can't be," he screamed, his voice echoing through the now silent room. Miles felt a chill crawl up his spine. Recognition dawned. This moment was beyond him, beyond anything he understood. Nathan's brows furrowed, and from beneath the folds of chaos, the threads of history unfurling, revealing connections he hadn't even known existed. Then the light shifted again. It illuminated Nathan's face, revealing layers of grief and regret Miles had never noticed before. "You're not who you think you are," he whispered, voice shaky. The realization slammed into Miles like a tidal wave. Who was he in this tangled web? Friend? Enemy? Son? The exhilarating fear wrapped around him, gripping tighter. The power of the moment surged unpredictably, plunging him into uncertainty. He could feel relationships fracturing, histories tying, and identities crumbling. All the answers felt so close, yet so far away. And in that haunting silence, he stood, suspended, in a reality bending around him, teetering on the brink. The room felt like it was spinning. Miles couldn't grasp what was happening. His heart raced, pounding like rain against a roof in a storm. The wild-eyed man stood frozen, gun trembling in his hand. Evelyn's words echoed in his ears, desperate and pleading. "We can work this out." But just as silence seemed to settle, a deep rumble rolled in, shaking the floor beneath their feet. A chill crept into the air, compressing everything momentarily. Then it hit them, a heavier explosion, sending debris flying, reverberating like thunder. Cries of horror pierced the trembling silence as the wild-eyed man stumbled back. The gun clattered to the floor, the tension breaking like glass. Chaos erupted, and in that brief moment, Nathan shouted something unclear, but his eyes spoke volumes, a flicker of panic cutting through his arrogance. Miles scrambled to his feet, stomach twisted. It felt like time slowed to a crawl, his breath shallow, ready to break. The smoke and dust began to settle, thick and choking. People rushed toward the exits, tripping over each other in their frantic escape. Evelyn shouted, "Stay together!" But her voice was nearly drowned out as the restaurant transformed into a maze of fear. And then Miles felt it, an unexpected warmth spreading at his feet. He looked down. Amid the uproar, amid the broken glass and frantic bodies, he saw it. A small, glowing ember, thrumming with energy. It pulsed, flickering like a heartbeat, drawing him closer. His instinct screamed to step away, yet curiosity anchored him in place. "What is that?" the wild-eyed man whispered, eyes wide, as he glanced from the ember to Miles and back again. Shock rippled through them, the tension hanging thick like fog. Suddenly Evelyn gasped, a hand flying to her mouth. "No, it can't be!" Her voice broke. Cracks of pain layered thick with memory. "Not after all these years!" "What do you mean?" Miles demanded, caught in the storm of uncertainty. But before she could answer, the ember exploded, a blinding flash enveloping everything. A whirlwind swept through the room, sending guests flying against the walls, filling the air with white-hot heat and an overwhelming force. Miles shielded his face, but even then, it was as if the world turned inside out. In that blinding moment, something shifted. When the light dimmed, the vision began to clarify again. But it wasn't the same. Miles looked around in horror. The once luxurious restaurant lay in ruins. But more terrifyingly, everyone stood still. His mother, Nathan, the guests. They were frozen, suspended in time, mouths agape and eyes wide. His heart raced. What just happened? Words tumbled through his mind, and he felt anxious as he stepped forward, calling out, "Mom, can you hear me?" A knot of dread caught in his throat. Then the air distorted, shimmering like heat on asphalt. A voice, soft but resonant, filled the space. "You've awakened it." "What? Who are you?" Miles shouted, his pulse racing, confusion gripping him hard. "Those who seek truth," the voice echoed, layered with a knowing weight, "must confront the past. Choices intertwine. Your stories are not your own." Suddenly, the wild-eyed man collapsed to the ground, the gun forgotten, trembling violently. "No! It can't be!" he screamed, his voice echoing through the now silent room. Miles felt a chill crawl up his spine. Recognition dawned. This moment was beyond him, beyond anything he understood. Nathan's brows furrowed, and from beneath the folds of chaos, the threads of history unfurling, revealing connections he hadn't even known existed. Then, the light shifted again. It illuminated Nathan's face, revealing layers of grief and regret Miles had never noticed before. "You're not who you think you are," he whispered, voice shaky. The realization slammed into Miles like a tidal wave. Who was he in this tangled web? Friend? Enemy? Son? The exhilarating fear wrapped around him, gripping tighter. Then a cry shattered the silence. "Mum!" A figure rushed through the haze. A woman with wild hair and intense eyes, face flushed and frantic, rushed forward. It was Claire, a name long buried in the past, lost to time. Miles' breath caught in his throat. How could this be? "I'm back, Evelyn! We can't let the past repeat!" Claire's voice rang with urgency, laced with desperation. But just as she approached, the ether shimmered again, revealing another truth. Claire was not just a friend. She was Miles' sister, the one supposed to be gone forever. Everyone gasped, the air thick with disbelief. Miles looked from his mother to Claire, his heart pounding in confusion. "What? Mom, you're back, Evelyn? We can't let the past repeat." Claire's voice rang with urgency, laced with desperation. But just as she approached, the ether shimmered again, revealing another truth. Claire was not just a friend. She was Miles' sister, the one supposed to be gone forever. Everyone gasped, the air thick with disbelief. Miles looked from his mother to Claire, his heart pounding in confusion. "What? How?" Words tumbled from his lips, barely able to grasp the reality, crashing over him like a wave. "Enough!" Nathan's voice cut through the chaos, but it trembled, fear leaking into his confidence. "You should have stayed gone, Claire." Claire's gaze hardened. "And let you live with your lies? No. You can fool everyone else, but not me." Evelyn stepped between them, hands raised. "No more fighting. This isn't how we fix things." But before anyone could react, the air shifted again. A sharp crack echoed, and the ground shook beneath their feet. Gasps reverberated through the crowd. The shockwave rippled, sending people stumbling back and knocking over tables. The lights flickered ominously, buzzing angrily overhead. A figure sprang forward from the shadows, the cover of chaos failing to hide him. "You'll pay for what you did." He charged, eyes ablaze with fury. It was another man, someone with intensity that sent shivers down Miles' spine. "Hold it!" a voice shouted. Officers burst through the door, guns drawn, creating a wall of authority amidst the turmoil. But the crowd surged, Panic whipped through them like a wild storm. Guests cried out, pushing and shoving toward the exits, desperate to escape. Amid the mess, Claire tried to reach Miles, but people were pressing in like a tidal wave. "Take cover!" someone screamed. "Get down!" "Mom!" Miles yelled, but he could barely see her through the crush of bodies. Clarity faded as confusion took hold. Suddenly, Claire collided into Nathan, forcing both of them to the floor. "You don't get to escape this!" Miles felt his heart racing, all thoughts of resentment lost in a frenzy to protect his family. But as they fell, their heads knocked together, and Claire's expression twisted into something unreadable. "Miles," she whispered, her eyes wide and frantic. "You have to listen!" In that split second, a deafening boom rocked the restaurant. Another explosion? No. It was a loud bank of sound, the police storming in with an urgency that felt surreal. "Get down! Everyone on the ground!" And then he saw it. A flash, a glint of metal amidst the chaos. Nathan's hands tightened as he scrambled for something hidden under the bar. Something that glimmered far too much like a weapon. "No! Stop!" Miles shouted, feeling the panic clawing at his throat. "What are you doing?" But the glimmer turned dark as Nathan's face twisted, the mask of control falling. "It's too late for that!" he screamed, pointing it at the newcomer who had started it all. The wild-eyed man froze. But then, something exploded within Miles. A crack split the air. "Dad, stop!" The word slipped out. The room plunged into silence as everyone turned to him. The weight of the revelation hung like an anvil in the air. Nathan's eyes widened, trembling. "What? What did you just call me?" The wild-eyed man dropped to his knees, fingers clutching his head. "No! This isn't how it's supposed to end!" Miles' heart thundered as a realization flooded in, shaking him to the core. His whole life felt like a facade, peeled back to reveal truths no one was ready to face. He looked between Claire and Nathan. The history they all shared intertwining in a twisted web that felt impossible. What? But before he could finish the thought, the entire restaurant felt as if it was imploding. The lights flickered. A cacophony of sound filled the air. Screams, shouts, cries for help. And then a blinding flash enveloped everything again. The walls twisted. Voices melted into chaos. And as the darkness closed in, Miles stood at the edge of his reality, heart racing, wondering just how deep the lies ran, and who he truly was in this nightmare. The room felt. Miles couldn't grasp what was happening. His heart raced, pounding like rain against a roof in a storm. The wild-eyed man stood frozen, gun trembling in his hand. Evelyn's words echoed in his ears, desperate and pleading. "We can work this out!" But just as silence seemed to settle, a deep rumble rolled in, shaking the floor beneath their feet. A chill crept into the air, compressing everything momentarily. Then it hit them. A heavier explosion, sending debris flying, reverberating like thunder. Cries of horror pierced the trembling silence as the wild-eyed man stumbled back. The gun clattered to the floor, the tension breaking like glass. Chaos erupted. And in that brief moment, Nathan shouted something unclear, but it trembled, fear leaking into his confidence. Miles scrambled to his feet, stomach twisted. It felt like time slowed to a crawl, his breath shallow, ready to break. The smoke and dust began to settle, thick and choking. People rushed toward the exits, tripping over each other in their frantic escape. Evelyn shouted, "Stay together!" But her voice was nearly drowned out as the restaurant transformed into a maze of fear. And then Miles felt it, an unexpected warmth spreading at his feet. He looked down. Amid the uproar, amid the broken glass and frantic bodies, he saw it, a small, glowing ember, thrumming with energy. It pulsed, flickering like a heartbeat, drawing him closer. His instincts screamed to step away, yet curiosity anchored him in place. "What is that?" the wild-eyed man whispered, eyes wide, as he glanced from the ember to Miles and back again. Shock rippled through them, the tension hanging thick like fog. Suddenly, Evelyn gasped, a hand flying to her mouth. "No, it can't be." Her voice broke, cracks of pain layered thick with memory. "Not after all these years!" "What do you mean?" Miles demanded, caught in the storm of uncertainty. But before she could answer, the ember exploded, a blinding flash enveloping everything. A whirlwind swept through the room, sending guests flying against the walls, filling the air with white-hot heat and an overwhelming force. Miles shielded his face, but even then, it was as if the world turned inside out. In that blinding moment, something shifted. When the light dimmed, the vision began to clarify again. But it wasn't the same. Miles looked around in horror. The once luxurious restaurant lay in ruins. But more terrifyingly, everyone stood still. His mother, Nathan, the guests, they were frozen, suspended in time. Mouths agape and eyes wide. His heart raced. What just happened? Words tumbled through his mind, and he felt anxious as he stepped forward, calling out, "Mom, can you hear me?" A knot of dread caught in his throat. Then the air distorted, shimmering like heat on asphalt. A voice, soft but resonant, filled the space. "You've awakened it." "What? Who are you?" Miles shouted, his pulse racing, confusion gripping him hard. "Those who seek truth," the voice echoed, layered with a knowing weight, "must confront the past. Choices intertwine. Your stories are not your own." Suddenly, the wild-eyed man collapsed to the ground, the gun forgotten, trembling violently. "No, it can't be!" he screamed, his voice echoing through the now silent room. Miles felt a chill crawl up his spine. Recognition dawned. This moment was beyond him, beyond anything he understood. Nathan's brows furrowed, and from beneath the folds of chaos, the threads of history unfurling, revealing connections he hadn't even known existed. Then the light shifted again. It illuminated Nathan's face, revealing layers of grief and regret Miles had never noticed before. "You're not who you think you are," he whispered, voice shaky. The realization slammed into Miles like a tidal wave. Who was he in this tangled web? Friend? Enemy? Son? The exhilarating fear wrapped around him, gripping tighter. Just then, Claire crashed into the scene, her breathing frantic, eyes wide with panic. "Miles!" she shouted, pushing her way through the crowd. "They're coming for you! We need to go!" "What?" Miles stammered, still reeling from the chaos unfolding. "What do you mean? Who's coming?" Before she could answer, the lights flickered again, and another figure emerged from the shadows. It was a man in a dark coat, face concealed, a grin chill radiating off him. The moment he entered, time paused. The atmosphere shifted. Something dark loomed behind him. "Ah, the family reunion!" The man spoke, voice silky smooth yet coated with malice. "It's adorable, really." He stepped closer, a smirk playing on his lips. "But I'm afraid it's time to finally reveal the truth. You've all been puppets, controlled without knowing." Evelyn's eyes widened in horror. "What are you talking about?" she gasped. The man laughed softly, a cruel twist of fate. "Oh, it's simple, really. I pulled the strings. I made sure every piece fell into place." He pointed to Nathan, then to Miles. "You, Nathan, think you're the architect of your empire. You're just a pawn in my game." "What do you mean?" Nathan stammered, the bravado fading fast. "I mean, Miles, you're more connected than you think. You've been my shadow all along. Everything you thought you knew, lies. Everything." Suddenly, Miles felt his world shift again, the strings of reality tugging at his mind. "No," he whispered, breath hitching. "That can't be." But the man continued, voice hard and cutting. "You're my son, Miles. Your real name is Cole, and everything you love, built on facades. Your mother took you away to protect you, but the truth is, you were never meant to escape." Stunned silence fell. Darkness crept closer, wrapping around him like a suffocating blanket. The revelation pierced through him, shattering his understanding. "Miles." Claire reached out, horror etched on her face. "Is this true?" And as the world crashed down around him, Miles stood there, caught between the ghosts of the past and the terrifying reality unfurling before him. Was it really all a lie? And what did that mean for his future? What was the truth anymore? The room was a wreck, the echoes of chaos bouncing before the walls like trapped spirits. Miles stood at the centre, heart racing, mind swirling with reality tumbling down around him. Everything felt surreal, like he was caught in a twisted dream. "Am I really your son?" Miles whispered, eyes wide, searching Nathan's face for the truth he desperately needed. Is it true?" Nathan's expression shifted. Fear transformed into regret. "I never meant for you to find out this way, Miles. I was trying to protect you from the past, from our past." His voice cracked, hanging heavy in the air. "Protect me? By lying? By hiding?" Miles felt a rush of anger, a fire igniting within him. Tears burned at the corners of his eyes, blurring his vision. "You took my life and twisted it. You're just as guilty as the man with the gun." Just then, the wild-eyed man, his name still echoing as a shadow in Miles's mind, collapsed forward. "You don't get to lie anymore, Nathan. You didn't protect anyone. You ruined everything." He trembled, pointing an accusing finger. Evelyn stepped forward, hands grasping the air like a lifeline. "Hold on. What happened to our family?" Her voice cracked, eyes flickering between the two men. "Was everything just a lie? Claire, my daughter, your sister, she deserved better." The chaos was almost unbearable. Shouts and gasps filled the void, the crowd trying to comprehend the reality unraveling before them. The officer shouted from the entrance, creating a beacon of authority amidst the confusion. Everyone, stay calm. You need to evacuate immediately. But Miles felt trapped, caught between his mother and the dark truth. We can't just leave. We need to face this. The wild-eyed man, now on his knees, nodded in agreement. Yes, everyone deserves the truth. Nathan, it's time to own up to what you did. You can't keep running. With a tremor, Nathan's voice broke. I was trying to shield you all, but it spiraled out of control. I thought... No more lies. The words burst forth from Miles like a dam breaking, unleashing a flood of emotions. You think that hiding the truth has saved us? Look where we are! The room thickened with tension. Just as it felt like everything might dissolve into anarchy, Claire appeared, determination etched on her face. We need to come together, to face this as a family. If we're going to fix what was broken, we can't do it divided. In that moment, something shifted. The realization that they were all entangled in this mess. Their lives intertwined by secrets, pain, and love started to dawn. Miles looked around, eyes landing on his family. They were all flawed, all scarred by their choices. But they stood there, together. The air felt charged. So what do we do now? Miles asked, his voice thick with uncertainty. Face the truth, Claire replied. No more running. We need to tell our story and let go of the shadows. A heavy silence enveloped them. But within it, a glimmer of hope sparked. They could start over. There was a road ahead, however twisted or bumpy. Suddenly, the wild-eyed man stood. Then I'm with you. Expose everything. This ends now. With a final resolute nod, Nathan glanced at each face around him. Miles, Evelyn, Claire, the wild-eyed man. Together then. No more secrets. For the first time, it felt like the weight of the world was lifting. The chaos faded into a blurry backdrop, the enormity of the moment grounding Miles. As they turned slowly towards the exit, a crack of dawn spilled through the broken windows, illuminating their faces. One step at a time, they walked out of the ruins into a future uncertain but together. And just like that, they crossed the threshold of the door, stepping into the unknown. As the screen fades, remember this unforgettable journey of truth and redemption. Don't miss out on what's coming next. You need to subscribe now. Hit that red button and join our community of truth seekers. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help guide others to this story. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories. What do you think will happen next? And please instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this outcome. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait.